Good evening and welcome to the LaRouche Organization Weekly Battle Report. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd. I'm Michelle Aaron, your host. Humanity has universal characteristics, common needs, and shared aims. Though we often live in different nations, participate in different religions, and have different cultures. This week's passing of the Catholic Pope Francis is mourned by people of many faiths and creeds and of many nations. What universal principles might Pope Francis have been touching upon? In his final Easter address this weekend, Pope Francis called upon us to have hope. And he spoke for all of the people of Israel and Palestine, for peace and for an end to suffering. He said in his address, "I would like us to renew our hope that peace is possible. I express my closeness to the sufferings of Christians in Palestine and Israel, and to all the Israeli people and the Palestinian people. I think of the people of Gaza and its Christian community in particular, where the terrible conflict continues to cause death and destruction and to create a dramatic and deplorable humanitarian situation. I appeal to the warring parties. Call a ceasefire, release the hostages, and come to the aid of a starving people." Something that you, watching this program here, can do now to help end the wars and create a better world is to register for the upcoming Schiller Institute Memorial Day Weekend Conference titled "A Beautiful Vision for Humanity in Times of Great Turbulence." This May 24th to 25th two-day conference is in person in the New York metropolitan area, with a live stream available for those unable to make it in person. This week, the Schiller Institute issued a press release on the speaker list for Panel 1, the panel titled "Strategic Challenges and the Emerging New Order." These speakers will include Helga Zepp-LaRouche, the founder of the Schiller Institute, Her Excellency Naledi Pandor from South Africa, who is the former Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of that nation, His Excellency Donald Ramotar, the former President of Guyana, Ambassador Jack Matlock, the former U.S. Ambassador to the Soviet Union, Ambassador Chaz Freeman, the former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs, Professor Dmitry Trainin of Russia, who is the academic supervisor of the Institute of World Military Economy and Strategy at the Higher School of Economics University in Moscow, and Ray McGovern, former senior CIA analyst and a founding member of the Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity. And others may also be speakers in that wonderful panel. That's just the opening panel of this conference. Other panels at the conference will include the beauty of the diversity of cultures, the LaRouche program to create 3 billion new productive jobs in a generation, the LaRouche Legacy Foundation on the actuality of LaRouche's ideas, the role of youth in shaping the Earth's next 50 years, and the Industrial Revolution 4.0, space, fusion, and AI. For those who may be able to attend in person, I assure you that additional discussions that will take place in the hallways during lunch and dinner breaks and after the live stream has concluded will be incredibly valuable and well worth attending in person. So to register and find more information on this upcoming conference, visit the Schiller Institute website. Now, LaRouche movement representatives were invited this week onto several internet podcasts. Diane, the president of the LaRouche Organization, was interviewed this week by Cynthia Pooler on her Issues That Matter YouTube channel in an interview titled, "Trump's Tariffs Are Not the Cause of the Crash, but May Be the Trigger." Let's hear from Diane.
I live up the street, as you know, from the state capitol. So a couple of weeks ago, when they had that big demonstration on that Saturday when it was pouring rain, there were thousands and thousands of people marching against Trump. How many of those people understand this stuff that you just talked about?
Very few.
Okay, so they're protesting and they don't know what they're protesting against. Am I correct?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I want to add something because it's really important you bring that up. The media is really complicit in this, and I don't think people should be naive. John Brennan was the head of the CIA. He oversaw the torture program. He testified in Congress famously, "We don't do evidence." Well, what does that mean? We don't do evidence? So you don't have to prove anything. You can just assert something and start World War III based on lies like Iraq's weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. So John Brennan supposedly resigns from the CIA, and the next thing you know, he's a news anchorman at MSNBC. Really, are you born yesterday? You think that the guy just, oh, I think I'll just go into honest journalism. No, the news media is an instrument of our intelligence agencies, which have lied us into war upon war and which are seeking to divide the population right now by making everyone hysterical, anti-Trump hysteria, pro-Trump hysteria, as opposed to thinking about what the nation really needs and opposed to and not actually recognizing where we were headed under Biden, how this close to nuclear war, as Scott Ritter, our mutual friend, warned, this close. And had Kamala Harris got in there, nothing would have stopped a war with Iran, and we might already have blown up the entire world by continuing to provoke Russia.
The full interview, there's a link available in our YouTube description. Now, also, a LaRouche associate who recently ran for office with the LaRouche-affiliated Buso Party in Germany was interviewed on Monday by a prominent podcaster, Philip Ploff, in an interview titled, "China Will Dominate the World, and That's a Good Thing, Geopolitics Expert Explains About BRICS." In this interview, Osenkopf was able to expose many of the lies told about China on questions of demography, the debt trap, and ideas of world domination. Osenkopf was able to lay out a positive idea of the forward direction of the world, that China as a new world power is a good thing, not a bad thing. This podcaster has 750,000 subscribers, and in just 24 hours, this interview had over 100,000 views, now over 140,000 views. So we include the link to that full interview, conducted in German, in the YouTube description. Happy anniversary to American patriots and those who will celebrate with us with last weekend's anniversary of the two battles upon which the American Revolution officially commenced 250 years ago, those at Lexington and Concord. A critical breakthrough in continuing and finishing that revolution occurred on April 10th. Anton Chaitkin, who is a leading historian and author and longtime LaRouche associate, just released Volume 2 of his series, Who We Are, America's Fight for Universal Progress, Franklin to Kennedy, of which Volume 2 covers the 1830s to the 1890s. As the author writes about his book, I am writing who we are as an American patriot and dissident. My country is misled by those serving the interests not of the nation, but of a global clique, making our present outlook a menace to our own survival and to that of mankind. Only the deepest historical inquiry can adequately examine how this sordid mess came about and give needed assistance to the search for a possible remedy. So we include in the YouTube description a link to where you can purchase this book on Amazon, but you can also find it at various book retailers, bookstores. And this past Friday night's LaRouche Organization Symposium with TLO President Diane, also on that evening, Vice President Chris Sayre. The symposium was an extensive discussion with Chaken, where he lays out the principles to be examined. Here's a bit from that wonderful discussion.
Tomorrow is the 250th anniversary of the first battle in Lexington and Concord, first battles of the American Revolution. So what was that conflict about? What was it really about? To understand this, you really have to have the setting for it. In the years just previous to this, in the 1760s into the 1770s, there was a different kind of revolution going on in England, which was gaining new powers to produce. And this was the steam engine project, the canals, certain scientific breakthroughs with Priestley and so forth. And suddenly, as a result of these gentle people, you know, they were pro-Americans and they were anti-slavery people. They were all friends of Franklin, who was directing a lot of what they were doing. And he was there for 18 years. But suddenly, as a result of their breakthroughs with industry and science and technology, suddenly there was the power for the entire world to become advanced and enlightened, to have good lives. And the leaders of the British Empire at that time, who were, when they were in the American Revolutionary fight, the fight against the colonies, came to the determination that no other country would be allowed to have these powers, that they would be locked into only the empire, steam power and these other things, metallurgy. The Americans were in a terrible bind. They had been blocked from having industry by the British colonial overlords. But now, with this industrial revolution in England, they had to have advanced industry to maintain any kind of real sovereignty or independence, to have self-government. The self-government has a content to it. It's not just elections. It's not just, you know, I'm going to vote for somebody. Do we have the right to have progress towards a better life, to be treated like human beings, as individuals and as a people? And it turns out that when you understand the context, you have to have that sovereignty, which means economic advancement and industrialization. If you don't become an industrial power, you're going to be slaves. One of the ways that the British kept the Americans from getting the industrialization until the 19th century was by maintaining the slave system in the United States. And the Southern plantation system was part of the British Empire. It is really I think, the obligation of every aware person in other countries as well as in our own country to call the United States to account for giving up this idea of universal progress. We used to have that idea. We didn't have it all the time, but we had it. And this made all the difference in world history. So people have the right to call our country to account. If you're not respectful of the United States itself for its past achievements, then you don't understand enough to be able to criticize it right now. But if you do know that, you have to be able to call the country to account for the crimes that the U.S. and the British and the other parts of this wicked system are doing now, and to say this is who we have been in the past, this is what we've accomplished. Go back to that, and we can make progress together. That has to happen now.
Thank you, Tony. Last Saturday, this idea that we discover our actual history and fight for the principles of the good was developed in meetings held by the LaRouche Organization, titled 250 Years After the Shot Heard Round the World, the British Are Still Colonizers. Presenters at this meeting included TLO President Diane, TLO Vice President Chris, LaRouche Organization Treasurer and Economics Expert Jason Ross, LaRouche Activities Coordinator Lynn Speed, host of various of our programs Dennis Speed, and LaRouche Movement historian Bob Wesser. The meeting began with a musical introduction, an American Revolution song about the Battle of Bunker Hill. We will hear that musical introduction, and then TLO Vice President Chris Sayre will give us a report on the Manhattan meeting.
Let tyrants shake their iron rod, and slavery clang her galling chains. We fear them not, we trust in God. New England's God forever reigns. What grateful offering shall we bring? What shall we render to the Lord? Loud hallelujahs let us sing, and praise his name on every chord.
Last Saturday, April 19th, was the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington, and we held a very fun and interesting forum in New York City, attended by young and old, people wanting to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation and to find out where it came from. And to people's surprise, in fact, it didn't just happen one day in Lexington, where people decided that enough was enough. We're going to fight the British Empire. We're going to start to bring it down. But in fact, this had been a long historic memory in the people there in Massachusetts, going back to the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And in fact, the Massachusetts Bay Colony was inspired by the Golden Renaissance of Europe. And there was an attempt by people in the Renaissance, Nicholas of Cusa, Pius II, a humanist pope from that period, a number of other people who tried to create the first republics in Europe. Louis XI, Henry VII of England. But the Venetian power over Europe proved to be too strong. And so they had to come to the New World in order to create the Republic of the United States, our republic, if we can keep it. So this was the beginning of a series of classes that we're going to be doing over the next couple of years, and really, really bring back the idea of what created this great nation of ours, and how, by getting people to know the history of their nation, that we may be able to save it and get it back on the proper path that we should be leading. As Tony Chaken said, this is who we are, and that is the topic that we're going to be addressing again and again and again. Who we are.
A satellite meeting was also held in Massachusetts. For several people who attended the Massachusetts meeting, it was their first event with us. People were very inspired by the true history of the mission of the United States, the intent of its founding, and the implicit responsibility that we have to continue that mission today. There was also internet attendance with several thousand views on various platforms. The LaRouche movement also took to the streets last week. Over the weekend in Germany, members of the LaRouche movement participated in several of the more than 100 peace demonstrations that took place over the Easter weekend. Helga Zepp LaRouche, founder of the Schiller Institute, had written a special leaflet for this occasion titled, "Instead of rearmament for a major war, create a global security architecture." And a link to where you can find that leaflet is in the YouTube description, or you can find it on the Schiller Institute German website. Print it out, circulate it. We're now going to go to a report from one of those demonstrations from Matthias in Dresden.
Hello from Buzo and the Schiller Institute. We're here on the 18th of April in Dresden on Good Friday. Of course, the traditional Easter demonstration for peace is scheduled. Many different peace activists have called for it today, and there are at least 2,000 participants here. That means that we've already distributed quite a lot of literature, 400 newspapers and flyers, which are about a security architecture in the broadest sense, and even more extensive than the calls here for disarmament or diplomacy. The world obviously needs a security architecture to end the NATO-Ukraine war, and also in the Middle East. It's a very good step that so many people have gathered here for a demonstration. With that in mind, happy demonstrating and happy Easter.
Our organizers found that substantially more people attended these demonstrations than last year, and they were quite lively and spirited. In Dresden, where Matthias was, we brought hundreds of pieces of literature, but upon distributing them, ran out in 20 minutes. There were at least 6,000 or 7,000 people there. Now, at the Munich rally, where we also distributed Helga's statement, Schiller Institute's Werner Süße gave a speech from the podium, where he told the crowd that we have a new world where the old system is dying, and the new world represented by the BRICS is the future, and that we here must decide which way we want to go. Werner encouraged the audience to join the IPC, the International Peace Coalition of the Schiller Institute, and after he spoke, at least 10 members of the audience came up to speak with him, to get literature and to stay in touch. In the United States, Texas LaRouche movement organizers also deployed to an Easter event. As you see in this footage, they went to where people were just exiting from Easter observances. They put up that beautiful sign you see there about the LaRouche Oasis Plan, Water Not War. And they handed out a couple hundred of the Schiller Institute press release on the endorsement by South Africa's Excellency Naledi Pandor. The leaflet was titled, "The Schiller Institute's Oasis Plan for the Middle East offers an opportunity for us to think of the world in a different way." And you can find that statement on the Schiller Institute website. So if you have an afternoon free, a few hours, do what they did. Make a poster, print out some of these leaflets. You can find all sorts of wonderful literature on the LaRouche Organization website, the Schiller Institute website. Go out and talk to people, hand out the leaflets. And if you can take some photos or some videos of your activity, we would love to get a report from you on this. You can email in at info@laroucheorganization.com. We want your battle reports. One more item for those lovers of classical music. Mark your calendar for this coming Sunday, April 27th at 5 p.m. Eastern. There will be a classical concert of the Schiller Institute New York City Chorus in honor of the 2025 Jubilee Year of Hope. The concert will feature a musical piece, the Missa Sancta, or Holy Mass, Opus 75A, by Carl Maria von Weber, and 2 arrangements of African American spirituals. This concert is in person in Manhattan, New York. It will also be live streamed, so you can get more information and also buy tickets to either the in-person or the live stream on the website of the Schiller Institute New York City Chorus. We'll include the link in the YouTube. So, as we look forward to the upcoming Memorial Day weekend conference of the Schiller Institute, which you are all invited and strongly encouraged to attend, today we also looked back to the American Revolution, whose 250th anniversary we now celebrate and whose lessons we wish to learn. We heard that Anton Chaitkin published a new volume of his epic series, Who We Are. We heard that podcasters called upon the LaRouche movement for insight, and that organizers got out on the streets this week to talk to people, to organize in person. So those are the reports that we have for this week. Thank you for watching, and we will see you